Okay, we should give it a bit of time and then we can start. I do see that um, there are a few people who registered, so we'll just give it about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we should start exactly at 9:35. Okay, I think we can start. I think anybody who joins after, they'll just have to see the recording after to catch up. So I'd like to welcome everyone for joining us today on our Meteocontrol basic training. Today our focus will just be on how to fill in the registration form for your VCOM portal, how to select a blue log, and the licenses that IBC offers in the Southern African region. I just wanted to make sure, can everybody see my screen? You just give me a thumbs up. Please note you will not be able to unmute yourself, but if you do have a question, you are free to then drop your question on the chat. So if you can just give me a thumbs up, and then we can then start with our training for today. Okay. So first and foremost, what I'll do is give you a brief company introduction. So IBC has been in the market since 1982. And yeah, in South Africa for about a couple of years now. So I'm going to show you everything about IBC, what we are, what we stand for, what we have done today till date. So please feel free to then ask any questions if you do have, and then just give you a short introduction on IBC, Southern African region, who we have in Joburg and Cape Town. So IBC was established in 1982, and as you can see on the chart, you'll see that we have been busy with a lot of stuff. A lot has been happening, and I think the major thing that we did is our own mounting system that we do also offer here in South Africa, which was started in 2001. And since then, we have been focusing on the South African side to then showcase our mounting structure and from your Aerofix mounting structure, which is one of our famous mounting structure for your flat roof. So if you want to see more details since 1982, what we have done, it is available online to have a look. And you'll see that we have been pioneering the solar industry for about 40 years plus. Now we are available in different countries, and here the main focus today is IBC Southern African side. We are available in Germany, Italy, and other surrounding areas. So we have been around for 40 plus years. We have 40 plus years of experience, and we have about 435 employees in over 14 locations. And we have installed about 7 gigawatt plus with about 3 million people around the world that we have supplied solar into. So these are just the fun facts. And then we do offer residential, commercial, industrial, and power plants. So this is something that we cover. So from a residential point of view, we do have offerings for that. From a commercial point of view, we do have offerings for that, and also EPC to utility scales, which will be our power plants. So on the brand offerings, we do have our own IBC modules, and we have Longi, Jollywood, and Canadian Solar. So if you're looking for modules, these are the module offerings that we have as IBC. And on the inverter side, we do offer SMA, Fronius, Victron, Goodby, Test, and SunGrow. These are the inverters that you will then find on our online shop. On the storage side, our main focus is Solar MD and BYD batteries. These are the only two batteries that we offer. So from this offering that we have, it caters from a residential point of view and also to commercial and also utility scale. So if you do have any projects, you can then contact us, and then we can then help you and guide you from our offerings to see how we can meet your needs. So as IBC, we do have our own quality standard testing, which is only currently at the moment found in Germany. So from this point, I'll just like we test the panels and we make sure that it is in good standard or to our quality assurance. So we do have our own power calculator. So based on the information that you have, you will be then able to calculate your what you need, your solar plant, your storage. So this is a very good power calculator that we have free of charge. So the link is there available, so you can check it out, play around with it, see how it can help you as an installer. So we do use a third-party warehouse, which is Daxa. So we do have warehouses in Johannesburg, which is in Campton Park, and we do have also in Durban, and we also have in Cape Town. So you can select which is closest to you. So if you are, let's say, perhaps based in Pretoria, you can then request from your sales manager to then deliver your goods to or get it ready for collection in Pretoria. Similar to Cape Town, if you're somewhere around Cape Town area or Durban area, you can then request that your goods should be collected in either of these places. Now, in the team, we do have Daniel and Helga, who are managing the Southern African IBC Solar Company. So Daniel is the managing director. Helga is the head of finance and operations. On the marketing team, we do have Zane and Carmaine, who are in charge of the whole technical training and also the marketing. On the supply chain and sales administration, we have Shemaine, Kim, Michaela, and Tanya, who are then responsible to make sure that the goods are ready in either or Cape Town, Johannesburg, or Durban warehouse. And then on the accounting side, we do have Hamu. So this is the most important part. So on the sales side, we do have Leo and Jason in Joburg side. So if you do have any inquiries and you're based in that area, you can feel free to then contact Leo or Jason, who will be able to then assist you. Then on the Cape Town area, we do have Ridar, Kyle, and David, who are then responsible for the sales in the coastal area, but they are based in Cape Town. So if you do have any inquiries, you can then feel free to contact Ridar. On the technical side, we do have Vessel, who's based in Joburg. So he's responsible for all the RMAs in Joburg, all the repairs, and all the technical support needed there. And then on Cape Town region, you can then feel free to contact myself. And I do work along with Honse and Jama on the technical department. So our wholesale trade services, this is to the EPC companies or the installers. We do offer customer care support. We do offer pre-sale support. And we do also offer support to the end customers if there's any issues with the product. So we, as IBC, we also offer system designs where we'll be able to then offer you the technical support that you need, but this information will then be handled by the sales managers. So if you do have any questions, you can feel free to contact them. So on the customer care concept, we do have after sales service, which is then your phone support or your technical questions, for your support and claims. And then customer events will be regular training, such as this, and where we'll be helping you, teaching you about the products that we have in our shop. And we do also offer a monthly newsletter. All this information, I'm pretty sure most of you already received that. And then the sales contact will be the sales team between Cape Town and Joburg, as I mentioned, that we have Leo and Jason in Cape Town, in Joburg, and Rida in Cape Town. So all of this information we'll then discuss during our training. And if you do need pre-sales support, you can then contact us. So all this information that you see is something that we as IBC offer. As you can see there, we do have our marketing and public relation, promotion shops for brochures, giveaways, trade show presence in Joburg. We have all of that available. We have our power calculator, which I mentioned, and we do help our EPC companies in this regard in terms of strong branding. So I'll just skip to this based on time just to make sure that we do not run out of time so that we can start on our training. But all this information is available online. We do offer support, and as you can see here from the residential side, we do have a few sites that we have worked with EPC companies from Western Cape to Gauteng. As you can see here, beautiful installations. So we are there to help all our installers to make sure that everything looks and is up to standard in regards to the product specifications. As you can see there, you'll see a few commercial sites done by our EPC companies. This is a container done by one of our EPC companies in Joburg side. So if you do want to have, if you have questions on this, you feel free to contact Leo, who will then assist you in terms of our containerized solutions. As you can see there, beautiful sunny island installation. And yeah, okay. So thank you everyone for the time. So now we can start with the training, and then just going to be a brief basic training talking about how to fill in your registration form and how to make sure that your form is filled in correctly in order that your VCOM portal is up to standard. So I'm just going to share my screen now on the registration form. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them on the chat, and one of our technical guys will then respond, or I will then respond after the training. Okay, just going to share my screen shortly with you. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. So first and foremost, so we'll start with the registration form. This is the most important part. So this registration form is for IBC to then fill in the details or put in the details onto your VCOM portal. So if you then purchase a license from us, we will then guide you with or provide you with this registration form where you'll then have to fill in all the details of the plant. So this is the most important part, to get this information correctly, because if this information is not filled in completely, or if the details are incorrect, you will then have issues on your VCOM portal in terms of information. So it's very important that this part you pay attention and make sure that you fill in your form accordingly and based to what is required. So we'll just start from a basic point of view. So this is what the form will look like. So let's say, for instance, you have a plant and the name of the plant is, let's in this case, call it IBC solar training. So this is my plant, and then you'll then go to your information there, A1, plant configuration, location data. So let's call it IBC solar. So you put in all the details, IBC solar plant, and then you'll put in also the information there. So street number, you just put in all the information there. I'll just call it 123. Postal code, you put in all the details there. So we'll just put in whatever it is there, Cape Town. Let's call it Cape Town. City, country, South Africa. Okay, not a apologies. So we will then say South Africa. So let's see here, drop down. So you look for your country, and there it is. So based on where you're from, if it's in South Africa, then you click South Africa. If it's anywhere in Somalia, wherever it is, you can select that. So in this case, we'll say the plant is in South Africa. And then please also make sure to put in the correct time zone. So for instance, here, I will then look for the time zone which is equivalent to Johannesburg, or which will be in this case, Africa, Johannesburg. So you'll just select that. And then here you have to then put in the total output power of your plant. So now let's say you have, let's say for instance, you have a SunGrow 110. You'll then put in 110 kilowatt peak. Then the startup date of your plant, you'll then put in the details accordingly here. So let's say this plant is starting today, then you just drew that, and then all the information will just be put in. So you just click on that, then you put in the date. Now here, the longitude and then latitude will be then for the location of the plant. So just make sure you can always Google this, find it on your on Google Maps, and then just make sure that you put in the correct longitude and latitude. This was very important for your VCOM portal because then from the licenses that we offer, we can then give you a solar forecast based on the location. So it's very important that you put in the correct longitude and latitude and also the address of the plant. So once that A1 section is filled in, we then move over to section B. So B1, which will be now we're looking at monitoring. So the first question there is there already an existing account to the VCOM? So now if you already have an account, you then click yes, and then you then put in your username. This is very important so that we can then mirror the account or the solar plant to your account. And then another thing would be then if you do not have, and this is your first time, you have no idea what VCOM is, how it operates, we are here to help you. So you can then say click no. And then we will then make sure that we create a username for you, which you'll use for all your VCOM plants. Then if you're a miss or a mister, you then click on the correct details. And then now in this case, first name, I'll then use my details. There it is, Alton. Betsy company, I work for IBC. Street name, you put in all the details there. 1234 postal code, you put in the details, and Cape Town. Then country, there we go there. Then I'm just gonna look for South Africa. Okay, we moved too fast there. So we look for South Africa, and then we should scroll down. Don't know why it's in German, but anyway. South Africa. Then you put in your details there. South Africa, it's +27. So just make sure you put in your details. Area code, make sure you put in all the details correctly there. And then just put in your contact details. Also put in your mail. Then I'll just put in my mail here. Okay, and then those are the details that you've now placed. However, this is for, if you have a look there, B1, this is monitoring. So this is the person who will be monitoring the plant. So now we say, okay, installer, you can choose owner, you can then choose invoice recipient. So these are the other options or other users that you can put in. So in this case, then let's move over and then scroll down. So if you scroll down, you'll then see all that installer, owner, and invoice recipient. So you have to always make sure that you click on that drop down and select each, the installer, the owner, and the invoice recipient. Because if you do not do that, it's not going to drop down to the next page, or it's not going to drop down and put it on the next page. So you just need to make sure that you then select all those three, and then you will then see B1, B2, and B3. So now the same question, this is all the same details that you have to fill in compared to in relation to the monitoring details. So is there already an existing counter VCOM? You put in the details. If you already have, then you click yes. If you don't, you click no. Then you put in your details there. So you'll put in the installer, you'll put in the owner, and the invoice recipient. The invoice recipient is the person who will then receive an invoice or a reminder 30 days prior to the license expiring for your VCOM monitoring platform. So it's very important that you then select the right people for it. And the owner is basically the one who owns the plant, and the installer, as you all know, is the person who's then responsible for the installation or the EPC company. Perfect. So now you're done with section B, then you then move over to section C. Now, section C is the plant configuration. So now, if you then, it's very important. Okay, so first and foremost, this registration form is very user-friendly. So if, for instance, it says important, please read before you fill in the plant configuration. Just click there if you're not sure about what you need to fill in. So for instance, if you click on that, it will tell you, does the plant consist of multiple subsystems? This is the case with various inverters or module types, various orientation or angles of inclination. So now I'll just give you an example now where we'll start. Okay, let's say designation 1, I'll then call it sub 1 for argument's sake, sub 1. And then for that specific designation, what's the nominal power? So let's say, for instance, if I go back up there, I did say that the total output power is 110. So let's say, for instance, just to make sure, maybe I have two 50s and a 110 kilowatt inverter. So 250, and then I'll just say, okay, for sub 1, it's a 50 kilowatt peak. Is there any shading on the subsystem? If there is, please click yes, and then it will then ask you about the time where the shading free time from, and then you put in the time until this specific time. So this is very important. During your analysis of or planning, you should then be able to know if you do have shading on your panels and from what time to what time. So let's say, for instance, now there is no shading. What tracking system am I using? Do you have uniaxial or biaxial? Let's say, for instance, this case, I do not have a tracking system. I'll say without a tracking system. The inverter manufacturer, then we have to then pick what inverter do you have on site. Let's say, for instance, in this case, I have a SunGrow. I will then click on the drop down and then look for a SunGrow. All the inverters should be in there, but if you do not have the inverter in the system, you can feel free to then put the details in, and then we should then be able to then update the file. So for instance, in this case, I decided to go with SunGrow. There it is. I'll then select SunGrow. Inverter type, then you have to select. So these are the types of the models of SunGrow, which you can find. And let's say, for instance, do we have a 50? Okay, then I'll select the SG50CX. Number of inverters, maybe I have one, maybe I have two. All this information you should have you should have and you should know, and then you can just put in the information. So let's say, for instance, I have one. Number of string boxes, how many do you have? Let's say I have one. Now you go back to C3 and then you click. You need to make sure that you click on input 1 and then input 1 allocated. You click on that one as well. And then this is the information that you have to then fill in. Now the angle of module inclination in degrees, let's say your panels are on the roof, maybe they are at 3 degrees. You then have to put in the information there. Okay, 3 degrees. Subsystem orientation in degrees. Now this will then help you there. You see, okay, where is it facing? Is it north? Is it east? Is it south? Is it northeast? All that information, you then just have to put it in there in terms of degrees. Now you click on the type of installation on the drop down, you'll then see, is it freestanding, roof integration? Is it rooftop installation with a smaller distance of up to 10 centimeters or greater? All this information you then have to select. Let's say it is up to 10 centimeters, rooftop installation, you'll then select that. Now, on the number of series connected modules in one string, you then have to put in how many panels are connected in series. You then have to put in that information there. So let's say 12 for argument's sake. In parallel, maybe 2. And then if you want to have a look, you can always click here on info, and then you should have a description there to help make sure that you put in the right information. So, and then you'll continue and go down and then click on your model manufacturer. Let's say, for instance, in this case, I decide to use IBC modules. There we go. You will see that IBC modules are available. And then you'll have to select now the kilowatt peak. So for instance here, I will then select, let's look for a bigger module, maybe the monosol. For a bigger module. Okay, let's just work with any 265. Then this is then the modules and the number of connected in series, and then you go to input 2, and then you'll then put in the same the information there. However, if input 1, apologies, if input 1 is similar to input 2, 3, and 4, then you just then leave it as it is, and then we'll just make sure that everything is then put in on your VCOM account. So now remember, as I mentioned, if you have different inverters, you'll then click on add substation. Then we add in the second inverter now. So you'll then see, if you scroll down, this is designation. So this is, then I put in my details for my second inverter. Let's call it then sub 2. Then you'll put in information there. Maybe it's 50 kilowatt peak, or maybe it's a Huawei, maybe it's a Sangro. Remember, Meteocontrol is not dependent on a brand. We just make sure that we can integrate different types of inverters into one. So you'll then follow the same procedure, call it sub 2, you put in the information as we did with sub 1, and then all that information should then already be in. So if you scroll up, there's my input 1, all the information is there. If you want to add in more substation, you can still continue to do so. You just click on add substation there at the bottom left. So now once that is done, you'll then scroll down. Now, this is the last part now. So let's say, for instance, you do have a blue log on site. You'll then, this is section D, you'll then click on your drop down and then click on blue log. Then you'll then have to put in the hardware serial number, which you can see there. You'll be able to find it on the sticker on the side of the blue log. So it looks somewhat like that. If, for instance, you're not using it, maybe it's a Huawei smart logger that you're using. You can then click that and then put in the serial number of the smart logger. Maybe, for instance, you're using Fronius Data Manager, all that you can put in. So we are able to, there are compatible data managers that are compatible with VCOM that we can then push data from that point to then VCOM. As you can see here, we have WebDyn, we have SMA cluster controller. All that information can then be put in directly to VCOM without having a blue log on site. And I think that's it on the registration form, how to fill in the registration form. So I hope if you do have any questions, please feel free to then put your questions on the chat, and Ponce, Jama, or Vessel will then be able to assist you on that. Okay, now let's continue. I will then move over to the hardware side of things, how to select a blue log, and then we'll be able to then assist you there. Okay, I'll just have a look here at the questions. Azola, Angelo, Ramona. Okay, so Zola, what I'll do is I'll just drop my email and then we can just have a chat and then see how we can help you there. Maybe the email might have went through the cracks there. Apologies for that. So I just dropped in my email, then let's have a chat and then let's see how we can help you there. Okay, and then we proceed with the training. So I'm just going to share my screen. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop a question on the meeting chat, and then we will then be able to assist you. Okay. Just going to share my screen. Give me a moment. Okay. And I want to start this part. Okay. Okay, so we already started with how to fill in your registration form. We've already done that. So now we will be looking at the hardware aspect of it, how to select the blue log, the different types of hardware that we have, and the IBC license offerings that we have. So as you all know, Meteocontrol is one of the leading developers for independent monitoring and control solutions. And I mean, they've been there for almost more than 40 years with experience in the solar industry. So let's start off with blue logs. So we have we have what we call the blue log X series. So the blue log X series has two distinctions. It has the XM and the XC. Now on the XM, the XM can monitor up to 100 devices with the blue log XM. That's how many devices you can monitor. So for instance, I'll give an example to say, perhaps you have 10 inverters, 3 energy meters, and maybe 2 radiance sensors. That will then be 15 devices. So the devices are all the devices that are then connected to the blue log, whether via Ethernet or via RS485. So that's something just to pay attention to. And then there is about 100 plus days of data retention from the XM device. And then there is also other information that you can get there. For instance, there's 100% data available through 24/7 operation. So the blue log does not require restart. And then on the information time in terms of data capturing, we do have a 1 minute interval value available on the blue log in VCOM. and in VCOM. However, by default, you will find that it's 5-minute interval values. So if you request a 1-minute interval value, please feel free to then contact myself or IBC Solar, and then we can then help you on that one. So we do have other offerings there. For instance, on-site visualization of measured values by diagram generator, which is then available on our VCOM. Configuration, backup, and restore, all that is available. You are able to then back up your configuration and then restore it. And then if you do know your protocols, FTP push is available, but this is an additional license that you'll then have to purchase. And then we have also an integrated OpenVMP client, which is optional, which is also an additional license that you'll then need to procure. So if you do have a special case where you require this, please feel free to then contact us, and then we'll then assist you in all of that. So, and then another thing, let's do this. So that's from the BlueLog XM perspective. Now, from the BlueLog XC perspective, this is then the control. So if you have a look there, you'll see the XM. So XM, M for monitoring, then the BlueLog XC, C for control. So from a control perspective with the BlueLog, you can control a maximum of 30 devices. So the BlueLog XC is not just only to control the inverters, but then you can then integrate a generator into the system. So what happens is the BlueLog then ramps down the PV based on the setting that you have set up from the generator side to say this is the minimum output that you require from the generator. So the power plant control, if you buy the BlueLog XC, the power plant control aspect of it is already integrated. There's no need for an additional license for this. So if you see, then there is like a configuration by the graphical user interface. There's precise active and reactive power control. So if you want to then control based on active or reactive power, this is available on the BlueLog. And there are fixed values and characteristic CAV controls that you'll then see. If you do have a BlueLog, we can then help you on that one. And if you have a look also on the ramp rate control, it's very fast. All this also depends on the inverter that you're using. But then if you do have a project, you can then contact us, and then we'll just then give you all this information. The BlueLog also offers method switching of set points, so you can use then your digital inputs to then do the whole set point switching. Okay, and then this 24-hour operation without rebooting, all of this information is there. Set point feedback and acknowledgement. This information is available on our BlueLog on our monitoring platform, and we do have a quick stop for your inverters. All of that is available. The logbook is there also to save data if you want to have a look as to what happened for the past 2 days. This helps your operation and maintenance team to then have a look as to and also fault find. So just also something I did mention it was just to emphasize you can only do a maximum of 30 devices on each BlueLog XC. So now between the BlueLogs, you have your XM and you have your XC. So now your XM, you have your XM 200, you have your 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. And then from that point on the monitoring, we then go to utility. Then from the control BlueLog XC that I mentioned that this is a control BlueLog, you have an XC200, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and so forth, as you can see there on the screen, up to utility scale. Okay, so maybe let me just mention something. So let's say, for instance, you have a SunGrow 50 kilowatt, and you then have to select the BlueLog, and you just want to monitor the system. What you will do then is to say, okay, this is the maximum capacity that's installed, which is 50 kilowatts. I then need to select the BlueLog for monitoring. What would it be? So in this case, you just want to monitor the site, put in your weather station, your radiant sensors. You then get a BlueLog XM because the BlueLog XM is specifically just for monitoring. So in this case, you'll then look at what is closest or what's the smallest that I can get. closest to 50 kilowatt. So in this case, if you have a look there, XM200 will then be your choice. But then let's say you have SunGrow 350 kilowatt. Then in this case, and you still want to monitor, you'll then say, okay, I need to monitor a 350 SunGrow. You'll then have a look. The XM200 is 200 kilowatt peak going down, so henceforth that will not work for your case. You'll then have to go to an XM1000. So that's how you select your XM based on the inverter size that you have. Also with the X control, that is the same principle that you have to apply. However, in this case, you want to then control the inverters. So you have to make sure that the blue log that you select is the right one in order that your control capabilities are work accordingly. So let's say, for instance, same case, I have a SunGrow 50, you'll then pick a XC200. If you have a 350 SunGrow, you'll then pick an XC1000. And that's how you basically pick a blue log. So you first decide, is it monitoring or is it control? Once you have that done, and then you then select based on the installed capacity. So this is what's inside the blue log. So inside the blue log X series, whether it's your monitoring or your control, or the hardware is the same. So now it's just a matter of paying attention to what contact points that are available for you. So you'll see there from point one, you have your digital inputs. So you have about 4 digital inputs, which you can use for various things, such as perhaps if you have a generator, you can then use your digital inputs to do your method switching. So let's say, for instance, digital input 1 closes, you have a set point of 60%. You have digital input 2, you have a set point of 30%. So then that sort of throttles your PV to work according to what you have set. That's just an example of what you can use with your digital inputs. And then you have your CAN. Everybody knows about your CAN. You have your reset button. You have your reset button. You have your digital output or your multi input, which you can maybe use for your temperature sensors if it's not RS485. And then you have your Ethernet. So your Ethernet, this is where you then have to connect your router or your switch to the Ethernet to make sure that your blue log is online. And then if let's say just sticking to the Ethernet, so if you have your Ethernet connected, if you have a look at point 13, that's your LEDs. So all these LEDs have to be green. So if they're not green, then there is something wrong. You can then contact us, and then we can just then offer you support on that. So on the blue log, so we're now at point 7, you have an RS4851, and then you have an RS4852. So you have two RS485s. So in this case, let's say you have different RS485 devices with different baud rates, for instance. You cannot use different such different devices onto one RS485. So you then have to design based on you have to design based on what you have on site. So let's say you have a SunGrow inverter, Huawei inverter, and for instance, needs a power analyzer, and you want to use RS485 on all of these devices. You'll then find yourself in an obstacle where you need one additional RS485, in which case you can contact us. There are additional devices that you can plug onto the blue log to give you more connection points, but you can never mix up devices with different baud rates. Then you do have, let's see now on point 11, this is where your power output goes. So your power output would be, for instance, maybe if you have an irradiance sensor, which needs a power supply, you can then connect it on point 11, which is your 24 volts DC. And then your power in, 24 volt DC, that's where you then power up your blue log. And then you do have your web interface, your display, and 16 is then your direction pad. So as you select going through your screen, you'll be using that. So this is what is basically inside the blue log. If you need all this The slides will be available with the training on our online portal so that you can then work on designing your blue log system if you haven't done it before. So the licenses that IBC offers are as follows. So we do offer 5 years and 1 year license. But then we break it down also to say this license is offered per site. So what happens is if you then have, for instance, let's say you have let's use a different inverter. Let's say you have a GoodWe 30 kilowatt, and you have in that 30 kilowatt inverter, you have maybe 32 kilowatt peak of solar panel. You will then have to then work on, do you want a 1 year license or a 5 year license? So if you select a 1 year license, there is a pricing for it. You can find it on an online shop. But if you select a 5 year license, there's also a pricing. But if you do your calculations, you come about 20, you save about 20% if you take a 5 year license. So for instance, let's say now we have the GoodWe, as I mentioned, your GoodWe 30 with 32 kilowatt peak DC. You'll then look for the size. So you'll see there on the first point, Meteocontrol VCOM license 20 to 99.9 kilowatt peak. So you then have to make sure that your kilowatt peak ranges within that VCOM license, and that is how you basically select your license. Now, let's say, for instance, I had a GoodWe 110 and I had about 200 kilowatt peak. Now, you see there is a difference there. Then you're like, okay, how do I then select my VCOM license? Then you select it based on your kilowatt peak. In this case, you'll then have to select the 100 to 499.9 kilowatt peak. So all these licenses are sold per license. It's not per VCOM platform, but it's per plant per license. That's how it operates. So if you do need guidance in how to select, you can still feel free. If you just want to run things through with us, you can then contact the technical department, and then we can then help you on that, on how to select your license. But that's just generally how you select your license. Is do you want a 1 year or a five year, and what's your kilowatt peak for that system? It's very important that you select the right license, because if you do not select the right license, or you select a very low license, your system will not work. Okay, so now I will then share just one last screen. We still do have 10 minutes just to give you examples of systems, meteor control systems, which perhaps this will then help you to see on different case scenarios and how to work around that. So I'm just going to share my screen again. So let's see if there's any questions. The blue dot selected based on DC rating or AC size of plant. The table you say using kilowatt peak, but you noted selection based on inverter capacity. I'm confused. Could you please reiterate? Okay. So your blue log will be selected based on your AC. That's how you select your blue log device. So I hope that verifies things, and not on your kilowatt peak, but you select it based on your AC. So okay. Then let's then go to case scenarios. I'm going to share my screen now, and then perhaps that should help based on these case scenarios. Okay. Okay, let's say for instance we have, okay, this user case one. So the client has 99 kilowatt peak and two Cargo Blue Planet 50 TL3 100 kilowatt inverters, two of those. Now, and then there's no power control needed from the client, and then communication is ADSL. So now you'll have a look the maximum kilowatt peak, active power of the solar plant, and then if you see two dots, the maximum AC active power of the system solar inverter plus battery inverter. So I think this will also answer your question which was asked a few seconds ago. So for instance, now this is what you have. You have about 200, you have two 100 kilowatt and you have 99 kilowatt peak. Now I want to select my blue log. I will then select an XM200 because the XM200 is then equivalent to my AC inverters. There it is, which is 100 kilowatt peak. So you can then select your XM100. So this will not be selected based on kilowatt peak because that wouldn't work, but then that will be then based on the license. But then on the Blue Log hardware device, you will then select the XM200. And also the XM200 is the smallest that is available with Meteocontrol. You will then also select the power supply 24 volt. You need a power supply 24 volt, which we do also offer on our shop. So if you do need a power supply, which you want to make sure is compatible, just you can then just look into our shop and then you'll be able to get one from our shop. And then the VCOM license, setting up the system in the VCOM, like VCOM license for 5 years. This is something that we offer. So you can contact us and then we can set up the system for you free of charge. So this is what the system will look like. You'll have your XM and then daisy chain your inverters. And from your inverters, you then have your kilowatt peak and also RS485, and then connect the blue lock to the router and power it with your power supply. So this is sort of like a basic pictorial that can guide you to have select your devices and what you need to have for your blue log. So in this case, you see everything was daisy chained on the inverters, which goes directly to the RS485, which means you have one more RS485 available. And if you can note, this is only for monitoring. It's not for control, just for monitoring. As you can see, that's the XM. Okay, let's see. Just want to make sure I see of a different scenario that we can work with. Okay, let's say for instance now you have this case number 2. You have 2 cargo 50s, which will give you 100 kilowatt AC, and you have a 100 kilowatt peak of PV. You will then select your Blue Log XC200 be based on the AC. And then you will then continue, you'll have your power supply. But in this case scenario, this was mentioned, 0 feed-in with own consumption. So now you'll then make sure that you have an energy meter. We do offer a Yanita power analyzer for our Meteocontrol solution and the Schneider energy meters that we do offer that. So if you do also need an energy meter for your system, we can then offer you the solution. And then setting up on VCOM, this is something that we do for our clients free of charge. So you can feel free to contact us. So in this case scenario, you'll then have a look there. This is how the system or the pictorial will look like. You'll have your Schneider on the grid side, and then there's your loads, and then your inverters, which will then be connected via RS485. And there's your kilowatt peak. But if you have a look here, the Schneider IEM3155 is connected via RS485 to the XC. So the reason why it's XC, because we need to make sure that we control the inverters and not feedback to the grid or feedback a certain amount based on your agreement with the grid operator. So you'll see then, okay, there's my RS485. So already as it is, as you can see there, you have made use of all your RS485 ports. So what you can do is you can buy an MX module, which is the MX RS485 module, which we do have on our online shop to add in more RS485 ports. I will then just do one example before we wrap up. So in this case, case 3, you have 240 kilowatt peak and you have 4 Sungrow 60s. And then you want to then have an active power control using your digital signals, which for instance, in this case, 0, 30, 60, and 100%. And you want an irradiance sensor to your system. Communication is ADSL. So what you'll do now is say, okay, in this case, I have 4 sine wave inverters. How do you want to control the inverters? RS, do you want to connect to the sine wave inverters via RS-485 or Ethernet? That all depends upon you. So now you'll have a look now. Okay, it's 240 kilowatt peak, 240 kilowatt AC. We cannot, in this case, use XC200. It will not work because the maximum that the XC can do is 200 kilowatt AC. So now we'll have a look there in terms of the Blue Log XC1000. We'll then select the Blue Log. So if you remember, I said we have an XC200 and we have from the XC200, we move to XC1000. So that means your next Blue Log which you can select will be your XC1000. So you'll have your XC1000, you have your power supply, irradiance sensor, in this case an RS-485, which we do have on our online portal, which you can purchase. And then you have a remote power control. So this license now depends, it's all in special cases, but I'll just mention it also later. Then you have a license, Open VPN, and then you have a VCOM license. So now you'll have a look. There's my Sungrow inverters. In this case scenario, we decided to connect to the Sungrow inverters via RS-485. So they were daisy chained to the XC1000, where that XC1000 to one of our RS-485 ports. Then you have one port left, which we then connected the irradiance sensor. So we never mix up different devices on RS-485. Then you have your power supply, and then the Open VPN, you'll then see there it's because of the RSE. So if you do have, I don't want to go through many examples, but if you do have any questions or you do have a project, please feel free to contact us. Then we can have a look and then guide you on the designing part and making sure that the system during the operation actually works. So we are able to then offer you technical support and also guidance in terms of like having a wiring design. We can offer you all of that and also offer you commissioning remotely or on site. We can then come to site, have a look at the system, switch it on, make sure that everything is operating, the control set points, everything is up to standard. We can then help you on that. So I see that we already ran out of time, but what I'll do is I'll then make sure that all the questions we get back to them, and we then make sure that your answers are fully satisfied. So just another thing to mention is there are licenses that are available. If you look on an online shop, these are licenses apart from VCOM, licenses such as FTP. These are licenses where we'll be pushing data, for instance, from a SunGrow logger or from a Huawei logger directly to VCOM without having a blue log. So all of this is possible. Or for instance, you need a DNP3 or SCADA solution. We do offer that. We will offer you the registers and then offer you the license for that and also help you set it up. So I know that there are requirements with the grid operators here in South Africa with the municipalities such as the City of Cape Town, where they require IEC 104 or a DNP3. So we are able to then help you with the either or of these telecontrol protocols. And all you have to do is just then contact us or send us an email or send myself an email, which we'll then put shortly now. And then we'll then get back to you. So I'm just going to put in the service email. Then you can contact us from there. And as a technical department, we'll then make sure that we get back to you. And I think from here, I will then say that the training we're done with the training. The training is over. And we'll just wait for a while. And then I'll try to answer to all the questions that are available. But I would like to thank everyone for joining and giving me the time to just share with you the basics of VCOM, and then we can then just chat from there. There are other licenses that are available that we can have a chat about, but we are here to offer support from a product or design evaluation point of view, and also offering designs based on the needs of our EPC clients, such as yourself. So thank you everyone for joining, and we can then yeah, see each other on the next training.